So Jesus has just performed the first miracle recorded by Mark, which is this exorcism performed in a synagogue in Capernaum. And what is the reaction of all the people present there? Total astonishment. And today we're going to go over Mark 1:27 and see how they're questioning one another. So let's read Mark 1:27. Kai ethambethesen hapantes, hostes suzetein pros heautus legontas, ti estin tuto, didache kaine catexusian, kai tois pneumasi tois akathartois epitase kai hupacusin auto. So the verse is very long. Let's break it down. So the first line here is the first sentence. The last two lines are actually the things that people tell among themselves. So let's just focus for now on the very first line. So the subject of the sentence is this hapantes. This is the subject. And the verb is this ethambethesan. All right, very hard to pronounce. This is the verb. Kai is the usual conjunction and. And then you have this preposition, which is a consecutive preposition that introduces a consecutive clause, where the verb is this sudzetein. This is the verb of the consecutive clause. And then we have the prepositional phrase pros heautus, where pros is the preposition and heautus is the personal pronoun to which legontas is associated. Legontas is a present participle in the accusative plural case, and the two agree between each other. So now that we understood the grammar of the first sentence, let's try to translate it. Let's start from the subject, hapantes. You've probably seen before the word pantes, which is very similar and means all, everybody, is the nominative masculine plural of the adjective that means all right? Hapantes with this alpha in front is a sort of intensive version of the same adjective. Remember that the alpha in front of an adjective can mean without or also can mean with, according to the context. So in this case, hapantes means with, all right? So it means all together, okay? It indicates that all of them with no exception. So Mark wants to tell us that when he says all, it's not an euphemistic way of saying most of them, right? Sometimes we use the word all in a very loose way when we mean many. No, he really means really all of them, no exception, okay? So, and kai, all of them, no exception, ethambethesam. All right, so this verbal form comes from the verb thambeo, okay? That's right here, thambeo. Now, the verb thambeo means to be amazed, to be astonished, okay? I would translate even better to be petrified, okay? Because it's a combination of two things. It's a combination of amazement, of course, but also of terror, okay? So it has this double feeling of amazement, but also terror. So you're amazed at what you've seen, but you're also terrorized by what you've seen, okay? So this is the type of feeling that the verb thambeo is trying to convey. So they were totally petrified. You can imagine. Mark is trying to describe the faces of these people. They were totally petrified. They couldn't believe their eyes, all right? So, and all of them were totally petrified. Hoste. So we said that hoste is a consecutive conjunction that means up to the point of, so much so, all right? So they were totally petrified to the point of sudzetein. And you see that this oste is constructed with the infinitive form, okay? It's an infinitive form. This ein, ending ein, indicates an infinitive form. To the point of, and the verb suzeteo, let's write it here. The verb is suzeteo. You see this su at the beginning? This is the preposition sun that we've seen many times. That means with. Okay, so the base verb is actually zeteo, which means to ask, to inquire, to discuss. Suzeteo means to discuss with each other, among each other. Okay, among themselves. So they were questioning each other. That's the meaning of the verb. To the point of questioning each other, and this each other is actually conveyed by this prepositional phrase, pros heautus. So pros is a preposition, all right? It's a preposition that means generally toward, to, toward. So asking toward, asking to, right? Asking whom? Heautos. So heautus. Heautus is personal pronoun. Okay, personal pronoun. You see this ending us. It's accusative masculine plural. Okay, and the accusative case is needed by the preposition pros, because pros wants the accusative after it. We've seen many times the personal pronoun autus or autos or auton. Here we have another dative case, auto. But here you see this epsilon in front. This is reflexive. It's not just them, but themselves. All right. So to the point of questioning themselves, okay, discussing among themselves, legontas. So we've seen this verb lego many times. It means to say. Okay. And in this case, as we've seen, this is the class in the accusative case, plural, masculine plural, because it's connected to this heautus, which again is accusative plural, because it's required by the preposition pros. So they were asking among each other, saying. Okay, so this first sentence we could translate, and all of them were petrified to the point of asking each other, saying, and now we're going to see exactly the words that they used. So the first thing that they say is a simple question. Ti estin tuto. You see this semicolon, we already seen it. This is the Greek sign for a question mark. Okay. And then this is the answer. Okay, question and answer. Let's try to attack the question. It's very simple. T, we've seen it already, is the neuter form of the interrogative pronoun. It means what. Okay, what. Estin is the verb to be. Okay, present, third person singular. What is, and tuto is a demonstrative adjective that means this. Okay, so the question is, what is this? Okay, the simple question that they could ask, like they're petrified and they're asking, what is this? We've never seen anything like that. All right, very simple question. What is this? Well, this is the answer. Didake kaine katexousian. Now, we've seen this term before, didake. Didake means teaching. Okay, means teaching. Remember that few verses before, Mark basically repeats the same idea, that everybody was astonished because they realized that Jesus was teaching with authority, exousian, exactly the same terms. Okay, his teaching, didake, was with exousian, with authority. Okay, here Mark introduces a new word, an adjective, kaine. So this is an adjective that is connected to didake. Okay, so it's a feminine singular in the nominative case. So what is this? Well, this is a kind of a kaine, new. Okay, kaine means new, means novel. Okay, so it's not just new; it's something novel, it's something better, it's something higher. So the teaching of Jesus is something novel. Why? In regard, in respect to this kat or kata, this preposition indicates that idea. It explains why this teaching of Jesus is considered to be kaine, to be new, to be novel, to be something higher than ever seen before. In respect to authority. Okay, what is Mark trying to say? What are all these people trying to say? Well, it's very easy to anticipate, but it's something that they've never seen before, because everybody else in the Pharisee circles, they had their own exorcists, right? We know from other passages of the gospel where Jesus talks about the Pharisees trying to drive out demons. So we know that also within the Pharisees there were exorcists. They were trying to perform some form of exorcism, but we can infer from the gospel, from what Jesus is saying, they were probably not that successful in doing that, right? And in any case, probably they were using formulas. They were, of course, trying to drive out demons using the power of God or appealing to the power of Yahweh. All right. The new part here is that Jesus, when Jesus talks to the demon, you remember, he doesn't appeal to God in the name of the Lord, in the name of God. No, he speaks with his own authority. He says, I'm telling you, get out of this man. And the spirit obeys him. So this is the new part. Jesus is speaking with authority in the sense that he's not appealing to any other authority. He's not doing this in the name of God. He's doing this with his own authority. These astonished the people that were there. And they were asking, what is this? Who is this guy? So now these same questions, what is this? What is this new teaching? Appears in a completely different context in Acts chapter 17. This is Luke that narrates the preaching of St. Paul in Greece, in Athens. Okay. And so this is the first time that people there in Athens hear anything related to the gospel. And so they're astonished. They don't understand what Paul is telling them. And so they ask him to please come with them to the Areopagus, which was this area close to the Acropolis in Athens, where people would generally gather to discuss, right? Discuss anything, philosophy, right? And so they're so curious about this new teaching that Paul is preaching that they really want to understand what he's trying to say. And so they ask Paul this question: Dunamithai gnone. Can we possibly know? And this is the question: Tis he kaine haute didache. You see this? What is this novel teaching? You see, you have this same structure: tis what, and in Mark you have t what, kaine novel new, and you have the same adjective kaine didache. Okay, teaching right there. So they are asking exactly the same question. They're hearing the gospel for the very first time, and they're asking the same question: What is this? What is the new teaching that is spoken by you? All right. So in Mark, you have people in the synagogue, the Jews in the synagogue, that experience with their eyes the gospel in practice. Well, in Athens, in Greece, you have people that experience the gospel by Paul's preaching. But the question is the same. They're astonished, as astonished were those in the synagogue. And they ask the same question: What is this new teaching? Very interesting. And so this is what they utter: epitase. So epitase is a verb that it's conjugated in the present, indicative present, and it's the third person singular. Okay. Who is referring to? They are referring to Jesus, right? They're talking about him, and they're saying he, epitase. The verb epitase comes from the verb epitasso, okay? Um, epitasso, where you have this preposition epi, which means upon, okay? and the verb tasso, which means to command, to put a command, right? To set a command upon somebody. So epitasso means command, give an order. Okay, so they're saying he commands tois pneumasi, tois akathartois. So this is the same expression that we saw in Mark 1:26. Remember, to pneuma akatharton, the unclean spirit. This is plural, and this ois, okay, ois indicates a dative plural, okay, neuter, okay, dative plural. So he commands to the spirits unclean, to the unclean spirits, okay. So they're saying, what is this? This is a new teaching with authority. Look at that, they're saying. He commands, he gives orders to the unclean spirits, and guess what? Hupakusin auto. All right, so the verb hupakusin, again, there's a preposition here, which is hupo, all right, which means beneath, literally beneath. And then you have the verb akuo, which means to listen, right? Think about all the words in English like acoustic, right? That are related to the sound, right? Comes from this verb akuo, which means to listen, okay? And it's a listen below, right? So you're not just listening, but you are under the command of somebody. So it's a listen in terms intended as obeying, right? So they're saying, look, he's teaching with authority. He commands, he gives order even to the unclean spirits. And guess what? And they listen auto to him, right? So this is the new part, right? It's easy to command or give an order or try to give orders to unclean spirits. That's what the Pharisees would try to do when they would perform exorcism, right? They would probably say something, get out of this body. But then the result, it's a total different issue, right? Here, the new thing, the astonishing thing, is that Jesus does not appeal to the power of God. The power, the authority seems to come from within himself. And not only he gives order to the unclean spirits, they even listen to him. It's also interesting to analyze how Luke described this same scene. We've seen that Mark and Luke are describing the same episode, right? Mark in chapter 1, Luke in chapter 4. Their description is very, very similar, goes in parallel, but Luke somehow uses sometimes different terms, different constructs that kind of add some more color or information. So let's try to read what Luke is saying here. The structure is very similar. Even Luke says, "Kaiageneto thambos." You see this thambos is the counterpart of a thambethesan. So instead of using the verb, Luke uses the noun. Okay, and astonishment, egeneto, occurred epipantas in everybody. So these pantas, so thambos goes together with thambethesan, and pantas goes together with this hapantes, right? So it's exactly the same concept, but just formalized in a different way. Kai sunelalan, okay, they were talking among themselves, which goes together with this suthetain. So you see this soon together, right? It's a different verb, but it here means to ask with each other. Here is this talk to each other, but again, the idea is the same. Pros heautus becomes pros allelus, between themselves, among themselves in Mark becomes among each other in Mark, in Luke. Okay, so you see a total parallelism. Legontas becomes legontas, the same thing, is a different case because the structure is the same, but it's exactly the same verb. And the question, look at the question. So the question in Mark is, what is this? Ti est in tuto. In Luke is tis hologos hutos. What is this word? What is this saying? What are these words? Right? So in Mark is more direct. What is this? In Luke is more specific. Like, what are these words? All right. And then the conclusion is the same because en exousia goes together with kata exousian, in power, kai duname, in authority and power. So Luke adds this power here. Um, epitase, you see, Luke uses exactly the same verb as Mark. He gives order tois akathartois pneumasin, which goes together with this expression in Mark. Just pneumacy and the adjectives are inverted, but it's exactly the same expression. He gives order to the unclean spirits, and Mark says, and they listen to him, and Luke says, and exercontai, they come out. All right, so Luke focuses more on the solution of the problem, right, which is the devil coming out of the body. Mark uh, points the attention more on the obedience that the evil spirits have in front of Jesus. So it's exactly the same image, the same scene, described in slightly different way. But the point is that both Mark and Luke are trying to tell us that something completely new happened there, a totally new miracle. This was really the very first miracle that Mark is recording. We know it was not the very first miracle because in John we know that Jesus had already converted the water into wine at the wedding of Cana. But in Mark, really, this is the very first miracle. And possibly this is the very first miracle that those Jews in the synagogue ever experienced performed by Jesus. And so they're totally petrified and they understand that they are in front of somebody that definitely is not human. Here's when they start realizing that something more powerful, kaine, novel, is there in front of their eyes. This is not possibly human. Evil spirits are obeying to him. This guy needs to be somebody that by his own authority is able to command the unclean spirits and be above the unclean spirits. Well, guess what? If you do 2 plus 2, you're going to realize that there's nobody above the angels other than God.